You already feel the shift around you, don't you? The air changed the moment you made that last move. Funny how fast people switch their tone when they realize the person they laughed at just proved them wrong without even trying. What they said about you, the stories they spread, the little jokes they thought were so clever, all of it flipped back on them. And now, look who's quiet. Look who's acting confused. Look who's pretending they always believed in you. The same people who doubted you are now acting like your success was obvious. They're shaking because your win exposed their true intentions. They didn't just underestimate you, they bet on your failure. They were waiting for you to fall so they could clap. They convinced themselves you'd never rise high enough to challenge their ego. They told themselves you were slow, weak, confused, lost. They wanted your story to end before it even began. And now, oh, the legend they tried to shut down is standing right in front of them without a single scratch. Your last move didn't just impress them, it scared them straight. It proved you're 100% that person, the one they swore you could never become. Press the like button and subscribe to pay this message back. The universe always had a strange way of exposing people at the perfect moment, and that moment just arrived. Your silence hit harder than their whole campaign against you. Your peace annoyed them more than their gossip annoyed you. And your comeback, that was the knockout punch none of them prepared for. They thought you'd stay in the background forever. Then you stepped forward one time with one clean decision, and the whole room froze. That's the part they'll never admit out loud. How your growth exposed their limits. How your strength highlighted their weakness. How your confidence cracked their fake power like thin glass. Chosen one, they never expected you to move like this. They studied your patterns. They tracked your habits. They thought they had you figured out. They thought you were predictable. Then you changed the script without warning. You broke their little storyline. You shattered every assumption they built about you. You didn't argue. You didn't defend yourself. You didn't beg to be understood. You just evolved, quietly, sharply, violently. And the universe backed you with a force that left them choking on their own words. They said you were emotional, but when you stopped reacting, they panicked. They said you were weak. But when you walked away, they started chasing shadows. They said you were nothing special. But now they're studying every move you make, like students who failed the exam and are desperate for a retake. The villain they tried to create ended up being the hero they needed. And the funny part? You didn't do anything extra. You just stopped letting their noise shape your future. The atmosphere around you feels different now. It's that strange silence after a storm. The wind settles. The ground still remembers the chaos. But everything feels new, clean, sharp. And the people who wanted to bury you are now staring at the mountain you built from the dirt they threw. They hate that you never folded. They hate that you never broke. They hate that you still stood tall when they had every advantage. And now they know. You're not someone they can play with. You're someone they should have never crossed. Let's talk about the moment everything changed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was subtle, a small choice, a tiny shift in your mindset. But it carried the weight of your whole journey. It carried every lesson, every scar, every betrayal, every night you sat alone, wondering if you'd ever win. Your last move came from a version of you that was built in the dark. And that version is unstoppable. You earned that strength the hard way. You didn't inherit it. You didn't fake it. You lived through it. People forget the nights you went to sleep with chaos in your chest. They forget the mornings you forced yourself to get up when everything felt heavy. They forget the people who used you, drained you, lied to you, and still expected you to smile. They forget how many times you broke and rebuilt yourself without applause. They forget how many days you moved through life with a cracked heart, but refused to lose your soul. But the universe didn't forget. And today's win is interest being paid back on everything you survived. Your enemies are confused because they don't understand how you can be this calm after everything they did. They thought the damage they caused would follow you forever. But Chosen One, you turned that damage into discipline. You turned heartbreak into power. You turned silence into strategy. And now the very people who expected your downfall are realizing you used their hate as fuel. You didn't collapse under pressure, you sharpened under it. Let me take you back for a second. Remember the time someone laughed at your dream. Remember how they smirked, like they knew something you didn't. Remember how they made you feel small on purpose, just to feed their fragile ego. They thought they were crushing you, but joke's on them. The universe was recording every moment, and the day you made that last move, that was payback. That was the universe tipping the scale. That was the moment their words finally hit them instead of you. Your growth is the villain origin story they feared, and now you're walking into rooms with a quiet confidence that shakes people who once felt above you. You make them insecure without even speaking. They don't know how to handle someone who survived everything they planned to destroy you with. Your presence alone exposes their lies. Your success exposes their jealousy. Your evolution exposes their failure. Chosen One, your last move convinced them you're 100%. Not halfway, not almost, not maybe, fully, completely, undeniably, the real deal. The person they tried so hard to bury ended up being the person the whole room now watches. Your enemies can't spin the story anymore. They can't twist the truth. They can't pretend they didn't doubt you. Your win burned all their excuses. And trust me, they feel it. You're standing in the aftermath of a battle you didn't start, but you finished. You didn't win by luck. You won because the universe finally stepped aside and let you claim what was yours all along. And now everyone sees it. Everyone feels it. Everyone knows the truth they tried to hide. You were never the underdog. You were the threat, and your last move proved it. Chosen One, before we move any deeper, let me say this straight. Thank you for showing up with that same quiet power that shook your enemies. You being here proves exactly what your last move already exposed. You're 100% locked in. If you want to return that energy, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a 777 in the comments so the whole world knows you're standing in this moment fully awake. And if you ever choose to support the team behind this message, even with the smallest gift, just know it strengthens the mission that your enemies hoped would crumble. Every bit helps this truth reach the ones who need it. And now, let's step into the deeper layers of this story, slowly, sharply, one move at a time. If you're a real chosen one, you'll feel that pull to stay until the very end. What comes next? It only gets heavier, and you don't want to miss a single piece of what the universe has been lining up for you. Let's begin the next phase. Number 1, you stayed quiet, and that silence hit like a bullet to their pride. Funny how they expected you to break and ended up breaking themselves instead. Your silence was the slap they never saw coming. They were waiting for chaos. They wanted noise. They wanted you emotional, messy, scrambling, defensive, louder than your own thoughts. They were prepared to sit back and enjoy the show. They wanted your anger to expose you. They wanted your pain to embarrass you. They wanted your reaction to prove them right. But what happened instead? You gave them nothing, and that nothing was louder than every storm you survived. The truth is simple. They were ready for the old version of you, the one who reacted fast, the one who explained too much, the one who thought being understood mattered. They were banking on your weakness, not your evolution. They wanted you predictable because predictable people are easy to control. But chosen one, you switched the script. You shut down the noise they depended on. You walked right past the trap without stepping on a single wire. And that was the moment the universe exposed who the real threat was. Let's not pretend they didn't try to provoke you. They pushed, they poked, they whispered things behind your back loud enough for you to hear. They created tension like it was their hobby. They built pressure around you, thinking you'd snap. They were counting down the seconds until you exploded because your explosion was their leverage. But you didn't give them that satisfaction. You didn't give them anything they could twist. You didn't hand them the weapon they wanted. Your silence was intentional, controlled, razor sharp, and it scared them. You didn't pause because you were confused. You paused because you were calculating. You paused because you saw the trap. You paused because you were thinking 3 steps ahead while they were still acting out of jealousy and fear. That pause wasn't weakness. That pause was precision. It was the universe whispering, "Stand still, let them reveal themselves." And they did. Their own assumptions destroyed them faster than you ever could. Here's the part that haunts them. Restraint kills power games. When you don't react, they have nothing to grab onto. When you don't defend yourself, they can't drag you into their story. When you don't explain, they lose their ability to twist the truth. You forced them to sit alone with the lies they told about you. You forced them to face their own insecurities without using you as a shield. You forced them to watch as their plan dissolved in their own hands. And let's be honest, you could have caused chaos. You could have blown up their whole game. You could have exposed their behavior in a single sentence. You could have dragged their shadow into the light for everyone to see. But you didn't. You held the power in your hands and chose silence. That's what terrified them. Not that you stayed quiet, but that you chose to. It showed you were operating on a level they aren't even built to understand. Do you know what happens when someone expects an explosion but gets ice-cold silence instead? Their mind starts eating them alive. They replay everything they said. They overthink every move they made. They wonder what you're planning. They wonder what you know. They wonder what the universe is lining up behind your silence. That is why they're restless now. Your calm became their punishment. Let me answer the question you might be thinking right now. Why did silence work this time when it never felt like enough before? Because this time, you didn't use silence to hide. You used silence to win. There's a difference. Before, you were afraid of conflict. Now, you understand that conflict is a battlefield and only fools step onto it without strategy. This time, your silence wasn't escape. It was domination. Chosen one, listen closely. Every villain arc begins with restraint, not revenge. Every legend is born in moments when the world expects chaos but gets control. Your silence told them exactly who you are becoming. It told them you're not emotionally available for their games anymore. It told them you're not scared of losing people who never honored your presence. It told them the universe is pulling you upward, far away from the circles that used to drain you. You flipped the dynamic so smoothly they didn't even notice it happening. They used to pull the strings. Now they're the ones waiting for your next move. They're tiptoeing around you, hoping you don't expose them. They're replaying conversations, trying to figure out where they went wrong. They're asking themselves, why didn't they react? Why didn't they scream? Why didn't they fight back? Because they thought silence meant defeat. They never realized silence meant strategy. Let me take you back to a simple story. Years ago, someone counted you out. Someone said you were too soft, too slow, too easily manipulated. They mistook your kindness for ignorance. They mistook your loyalty for weakness. Then, one day, you grew tired. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped defending yourself. You stopped showing up to conversations that weren't fair. That moment changed your future. And this moment, right here, it's the evolved version of that moment. Back then, you were learning. Today, you're executing. Your restraint is the reason people are whispering now. It's the reason they're scared of making the next move. It's the reason they're hesitating before they speak your name. Because anyone can explode. Anyone can react. Anyone can throw chaos into the world. But only the truly powerful can stay calm when their enemies want them to lose control. Only the chosen ones can smile while the whole room waits for a breakdown. Only the strongest can act like a villain who doesn't need to raise his voice to win. Here's the truth you need to hold on to. Your last move wasn't just about silence. It was about identity. It revealed who you truly are now. Someone who doesn't get dragged into low-level battles. Someone who doesn't hand power to people who never earned it. Someone who walks away not because they're scared, but because they're on a completely different level, and the universe is rewarding you for that. You might not see the full results yet, but the shift already happened. People feel it, people see it, people sense it. Your enemies can pretend all they want, but the truth is burning through them. You didn't fail to react, you chose to win, and that choice convinced them you're 100%. Done with the past, done with the noise, done with being predictable. You made your move quietly, and the world shook anyway. Now they're not waiting for your reaction, they're waiting for your next victory. Nothing scares a manipulator more than a person who stops asking for permission. You acting without validation was the moment everything inside them cracked. They built their entire version of you on the belief that you needed outside approval to make a move. They thought they were an essential part of your decision-making. They thought you depended on their reactions, their advice, their fake support, or even their disapproval. In their minds, you were someone who needed to be watched, guided, corrected, and managed. But then you made a move that didn't include them, didn't consider them, didn't pause for them, and their entire script burned to ash in seconds. Imagine this. They're holding a copy of the story they wrote about you, a boring little play where you enter every scene looking for validation, looking for acceptance, looking for a green light. Then suddenly you walk off stage and rewrite the entire ending without inviting them into the room. That moment was the psychological earthquake that left them stunned. Chosen ones don't wait, the universe whispered, and you proved it. They never expected independence this sharp. They didn't think you had it in you. For years, they watched you explain yourself, overthink your decisions, ask for opinions, apologize for choices that didn't need apologies. They loved that version of you, the version stuck in feedback loops, the version easily influenced, the version that could be guilt-tripped with one sentence. But when you moved without announcing, without detailing, without defending, that version died. The new version, the one who acts with full authority, they have no strategy for that. Most people panic when they stop receiving validation. You became stronger. That's what rattled them. You didn't collapse. You didn't hesitate. You didn't dissolve into insecurity, you just acted. Clean, direct, sharp. And the universe backed you with a silence so powerful it felt like thunder. Imagine them staring at their phone, waiting for your message, the explanation, the apology, the reassurance. But nothing came. Imagine them checking your social media, waiting for a hint of your next move. But there was no hint. Imagine them trying to read your mood, waiting for clues, scanning your behavior for cracks. But there were none. You acted in a way they couldn't track, couldn't measure, couldn't manipulate. Your independence didn't just surprise them, it destroyed the entire system they used to control you. People who depend on your reactions lose their power the moment you stop performing for them. And that's exactly what happened. Your lack of validation seeking shut down their entire method of influence. You removed the mirror they used to reflect their authority. They had nothing to work with anymore. No emotional breadcrumbs, no access to your thoughts, no predictions to rely on. They were standing in the dark while you moved in daylight. Let me answer the question you might be asking right now. Why did acting without validation shake them this deeply? Because people who secretly want control need witnesses. They need you to show them your emotions so they can reshape them. They need you to update them so they can interfere. They need you to reveal your plan so they can sabotage it. They need constant access to you so they can feel relevant. But chosen one, the moment you stopped feeding their ego with your explanations, they lost every tool they had. Imagine this, you're in a chess match. They're studying your every move, reading your facial expressions, waiting for hesitation, expecting you to explain your strategy. They survive on your transparency. Then suddenly you stop showing emotion. You stop announcing plans. Your moves come out of nowhere. They look at the board and realize they no longer know what game they're playing. That's what you did. You broke the script that made them feel powerful. Silence is threatening. Independence is fatal. And your self-trust was the final blow. Here's the truth. Your independence didn't just shift the energy, it rewrote the entire game. They no longer get to participate in your journey. They no longer get to narrate your story. They no longer get to influence the direction of your life. You shut their access door, locked it, welded it shut, and threw the key into the universe. What hit them the hardest wasn't the move itself. It was the message behind the move. You don't need them anymore. Not for advice, not for validation, not for reassurance, not for direction. Your life no longer runs through them. Your steps no longer depend on their opinions. They are no longer a checkpoint on your path. You outgrew that entire phase without sending a goodbye letter. Imagine someone trying to read a book after 10 pages have been ripped out. That's how confused they are now. They don't know what's happening behind your silence. They don't know what the universe is preparing for you. They don't know what your next move is going to be. And worst of all, they know they can't stop it. Chosen ones terrify people when they stop asking and start acting. Let's break down the real reason this shook them. They believed they had emotional access to you forever. They believed you'd always come back for a second opinion. They believed you needed their approval to feel grounded. They believed your confidence depended on how they treated you. But you freed yourself from that mental prison the moment you made a move without waiting for applause, and the universe rewarded you instantly. That feeling in your chest, that's clarity, that calmness in your decisions, that's self-trust, that shift in your energy, that's evolution. People don't talk about this enough, but here's the truth. Validation is a leash. Independence is the scissors that cuts it. And chosen one, you cut it clean. Now let's talk about something even deeper. When you stopped seeking validation, you did something most people never do. You removed your trail. You stopped leaving emotional breadcrumbs. When people seek constant approval, they expose their insecurities, their doubts, their vulnerabilities. They show where they can be manipulated. But you shut that path down. No trail, no clues, no weakness to exploit. That's why they're terrified. They don't know how to predict someone who finally trusts themselves. Your independence was the plot twist that turned them into background characters. This is the moment you need to remember forever. Your independence didn't just change the story, it exposed the illusion of their power. They now see that your life moves forward with or without them. They see that your decisions are created from self-respect, not from fear. They see that your spirit is guided by the universe, not by outside approval. And they see that you're no longer someone they can shape into their ideal version. You outgrew their limits. You outgrew their expectations. You outgrew their relevance. And here's the final gut punch. The move you made, the one that convinced them you're 100%, wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't angry. It was pure self-trust. And that alone was enough to break them. They expected a follower. You became a leader. They expected weakness. You became unshakable. They expected hesitation. You became decisive. They expected your life to orbit around their approval. Instead, you stepped out of their gravity completely. Chosen one, acting without validation, didn't just break their script. It exposed the truth they never wanted to face. You were never theirs to guide. You were never theirs to control. You were never theirs to shape. You were always 100%. And now they finally see it. Number 3. You walked out so clean, it cut deeper than any door slam ever could. Nothing haunts a guilty person more than a door that closes without a sound. You didn't storm out, you didn't scream, you didn't throw a final punch, you didn't give them a dramatic scene they could twist into a story. You simply walked away, quiet, calm, steady. And that quiet exit bruised their ego harder than any loud ending ever could. They were waiting for chaos because chaos would have made them comfortable. A meltdown would have given them something to blame. A screaming match would have given them a script to play victim. But chosen one, you denied them every weapon. Imagine this, they're standing there, ready for a fight, rehearsing their lines, prepared to argue. But the battlefield stays empty because you never showed up. That's the moment their stomach drops, because loud exits create noise, but quiet exits create consequences. People don't realize how sharp silence can be. When you close that door without slamming it, you force them to look at themselves. No smoke, no distraction, no performance, just their own actions echoing back at them. Your calm became the mirror they couldn't escape. Quiet closure is the villain's signature move. No theatrics, just results. Let me answer what you're probably thinking. Why did this hit them so hard? Because slamming the door would have meant you still cared enough to react. Walking away quietly proved you were done at a level they can't undo. Imagine them replaying every moment, searching for the explosion that never came. That's torture. That's accountability. That's power. Your exit wasn't weakness, it was intention, and they felt the truth of it in their bones. You didn't leave because you couldn't fight. You left because they weren't worth fighting for. And now they know they no longer hold any part of you. Number 4, you leveled up in the shadows, and that's why they couldn't stop you. Nothing scares people more than the progress they never saw you make. Chosen one, this was the moment that finished them. You made a move that fed your future, not your audience. No announcement, no spotlight, no applause, just pure strategy. And that's what rattled them to their core. They were watching the stage while you were rebuilding the entire backstage. They were tracking your mood while you were upgrading your whole life. They were studying your surface while you were reinforcing your foundation. They looked everywhere except where your real power was growing. Imagine this, people staring at the leaves of a tree trying to predict your next move while you're strengthening the roots underground. They didn't see anything change until suddenly the whole tree was unshakable. That's what quiet progress does. It blindsides people who only understand loud success. Here's the part they'll never say out loud. Your silence was the camouflage that ruined their plan. You moved without performance. You didn't post it. You didn't brag. You didn't wait for approval. You did something almost nobody can do in this era. You improved without telling anyone, and that's what made the move unstoppable. When you don't act for attention, no one can interfere, sabotage, or mislead you. Your choices become pure, clean, untouchable. You might be wondering, why do unseen moves hit them harder than public wins? Because public wins allow them to prepare their excuses. Hidden wins expose their weakness. Imagine them waiting for your next mistake, watching for drama, expecting a downfall. Instead, you just quietly upgraded yourself. No warning, no trail, no vulnerability to attack. They tracked the wrong signals. They studied the wrong version of you. They were playing catch-up while you were already 3 levels ahead. Progress in silence is a weapon. It slices before they even know a blade is drawn. When the truth finally hit them that you benefited without their input, without their knowledge, without their permission, it shattered the illusion that they had any place in your story. Quiet moves are permanent moves. And permanent upgrades are a threat to insecure people who depend on you staying predictable. Chosen one, you didn't win loudly. You won wisely, and the universe rewarded you for not needing an audience. Your unseen move wasn't just a step forward, it was the checkmate they never even saw on the board. Number 5. You held the truth like a blade, and still chose not to cut them. Nothing terrifies a guilty person more than the truth you refuse to use. Chosen one, this was the moment your power became undeniable. You had information that could have blown their whole world apart. You had facts, receipts, memories, patterns, and details that could have exposed everything fake about them. Most people would have thrown it all into the fire just to watch the explosion. But you didn't. You didn't drop the bomb. You didn't drag them into the open. You didn't weaponize the truth, even though it was sharp enough to slice their entire mask off. Imagine this. You're holding a match. The room is soaked in gasoline, and everyone expects you to flick it. Instead, you calmly walk out and close the door behind you. That's what real control looks like. That's what evolution looks like. People who are still trapped in chaos think revenge is power. But you understood the deeper rule. Stepping back from the battlefield is sometimes the deadliest move of all. Your silence wasn't mercy, it was mastery. You knew exposing them would only pull you back into the mud you already climbed out of. You knew the moment you opened your mouth, you'd be tied to the same drama you outgrew. Revenge tastes sweet for a second, but peace lasts forever. And that's what scared them. You chose peace not because you couldn't win, but because you already had. Let me answer the thought burning in your mind. Why did choosing not to expose them shake them more than actually exposing them would have? Because your silence proved you were operating on a higher level. Because your discipline showed them they no longer influence your world. Because your restraint made them face the one thing they fear most, themselves. Imagine them replaying every lie, every manipulation, every moment they thought they outsmarted you, only to realize you saw everything, every crack, every game, every motive, and still you didn't strike. That's the kind of psychological punishment no argument, no confrontation, no revenge speech could ever match. Observers win because they don't bleed in battles they've already outgrown. You stepped out of the arena while they were still swinging at shadows. That's why they're paranoid now. They know the truth is in your hands. They know you could expose them any time. They know your silence is not protection for them. It's freedom for you. And the universe respects people who walk away with dignity instead of destruction. You didn't spare them because they deserved it. You spared them because you refused to lower yourself ever again. And that chosen one is the moment they realized you're not controlled by revenge. You're powered by evolution. Number 6, you let their lies rot in the air, and that's what destroyed them. Lies only work when you argue with them. Ignore them, and they choke on their own poison. Chosen one, this was the moment they realized you weren't the same person they used to toy with. They threw lies at you not because they believed them, but because they hoped you would. They needed you defensive. They needed you emotional. They needed you shaking, explaining, overreacting, losing your center, because the second you argue with a lie, you give it oxygen, you give it shape, you give it life. But you didn't fall for the bait. You saw the setup. You saw the trap. You saw the strings pulling it all together. And instead of stepping into the arena, you walked right past it. Imagine this. Someone throws mud at you expecting a fight, and instead, they're the only one standing there with dirty hands. That's what your refusal did. Their lie didn't stick to you. It stayed on them, exposed and undeniable. They thought their words would corner you. They didn't expect you to turn the whole room silent with a single choice: not responding. Your silence didn't protect you. It revealed them. Let me answer what might be running through your mind. Why did refusing to argue shake them more than fighting back? Because arguing would have given their lie value. Silence erased it. Because engaging would have made them feel powerful. Ignoring them made them irrelevant. Because reacting would have kept you in their game. Refusing kept you on your throne. Imagine them rehearsing their lines, preparing their victim act, waiting for your meltdown. And instead, nothing. No reaction, no weakness, no entry point. Their entire plan collapsed because they couldn't trigger what they couldn't control. You didn't just refuse to argue, you refused to shrink. And that's when they finally understood. You don't fight illusions, you let them destroy themselves. Number 7, you healed in the dark, and that's why your light blinded them. Healing becomes unstoppable the moment you stop performing it for an audience. Chosen one, this part shook them deeper than anything else. Most people broadcast their healing like a status update. They want witnesses, they want applause, they want people to see them rise so they can prove they're no longer broken. But you didn't owe anyone your healing process. You didn't turn your recovery into a show. You didn't explain how you rebuilt yourself. You didn't walk them through the steps. You just got better, quietly. Imagine this. Someone checks the same wound every day, expecting it to still hurt you, only to realize it closed without their permission. That's the power of private healing. They were waiting to measure your progress, waiting to calculate your strength, waiting to see if their damage still had control over you. But you shut every window into your emotional world. They had no access, no updates, no readouts, and that terrified them. Silence during healing is not secrecy, it's sovereignty. Let me answer a question you might be thinking. Why did moving forward quietly bother them so much? Because if they can't track your healing, they can't influence it. If they can't see your recovery, they can't sabotage it. If they can't measure your progress, they can't claim credit for it. Your silence was proof that their chapter in your life was over. They no longer shaped your reactions. They no longer shaped your choices. They no longer shaped your emotional weather. You healed in a space they couldn't enter. That's why it scared them. They realized your story moves forward even when they're not watching, and that is the ultimate power move. You didn't heal to show them you're okay. You healed because they no longer matter. Number 8, you turned into a mystery they can't solve, and that's what broke them. Becoming unreadable isn't coldness, it's evolution. A chosen one, this is where the whole structure of their control collapsed. Manipulators don't need power, they need predictability. They survive by reading your emotions, tracking your tone, guessing your reactions, and shaping their moves based on how they think you'll respond. But when you stopped reacting the way they were used to, when your energy shifted from emotional to intentional, their entire map of you became useless. Imagine this: they walk into the same room expecting the same version of you they've always handled, but that version is gone, replaced by someone quieter, sharper, harder to interpret. Someone who doesn't reveal what they're thinking. Someone who doesn't hand over emotional clues. Someone they can no longer manipulate with a single comment. That is the moment fear enters their eyes, because unpredictability is the enemy of control. You didn't become distant. You became dangerous. Let me answer the question forming in your mind. Why does being unreadable shake them more than cutting them off completely? Because distance is final, they can accept it, but unreadability is psychological torture. They can't predict your next move. They don't know if you're done, if you're rising, if you're planning, or if you simply stopped caring. And that uncertainty eats them alive. Imagine them trying to calculate your mindset like a math problem and failing every time. Imagine them waiting for your reactions, only to realize you no longer hand out emotional breadcrumbs. Imagine them realizing they lost access, not to your presence, but to your inner world. That's what truly broke them. They can't read you, they can't predict you, they can't control you. And now they finally understand. You didn't go cold. You became untouchable. Number 9, you let their lies rot, and that's why the truth crushed them. Silence is a weapon, and you used it by refusing to fix the story they twisted. Chosen one, this move was lethal. Most people sprint to defend themselves the moment they're misunderstood. They panic. They over-explain. They try to correct every rumor, every assumption, every distorted version of their name. That's exactly how manipulators keep people trapped, by forcing them to fight narratives they never agreed to. But you walked away from the whole circus. You didn't correct, you didn't clarify, you didn't waste one breath trying to fix the lies someone else created. Imagine this. They build a cardboard statue of who they think you are, hoping you'll waste your time tearing it down. Instead, you turn your back and let the rain destroy it on its own. That's what happened. Their misunderstandings weren't solid, they were flimsy, and without your energy holding them up, they fell apart. You didn't defend yourself because your truth stands without permission. Here's the part that broke them. Every lie they told needed your reaction to survive. Every misunderstanding needed your defensiveness to stay alive. Every rumor needed your panic to spread. But your silence cut the oxygen supply. The stories died because you refused to feed them. Let me answer the question you might be wondering. Why does letting misunderstandings stand hit harder than correcting them? Because correction gives power. Silence removes it. When you don't argue, you show you're not touched. When you don't explain, you show you're not guilty. When you don't fix their narrative, you show their opinion is beneath your standards. Imagine them telling a made-up story, waiting for your desperate rebuttal, and nothing, no message, no explanation, no emotional reaction, just quiet certainty. That quietness forced them to face something they never expected. Your truth doesn't depend on their understanding. And that realization shook them more than any confrontation. Your silence exposed their insecurity. Your restraint exposed their desperation. Your refusal exposed their weakness. They finally saw the truth they avoided. You don't need them to get you. You need them to get out of your way. Number 10. You turned their low expectations into your secret weapon. Being underestimated isn't an insult. It's free camouflage. Chosen one, this was one of your smartest moves. Most people panic when others misjudge them. They try to overperform, over-explain, overprove. They burn themselves out, trying to change opinions that were never rooted in truth. But you didn't fight it. You didn't scramble to correct them. You didn't demand they see your worth. You let them underestimate you, and that acceptance became the sharpest blade in your arsenal. Imagine this. They think you're playing checkers while you're quietly mastering chess. They think you're harmless while you're studying every angle. They think you're slow while you're 3 steps ahead. Their underestimation didn't weaken you, it freed you. While they relaxed, while they lowered their guard, while they treated you like a background character, you advanced with zero resistance. Their blindness became your breathing room. Never interrupt an enemy when they're underestimating you. It's the cleanest path to victory. Let me answer the thought creeping through your mind. How did their misjudgment become my power? Because when people think you're small, they stop watching. When they stop watching, you move faster. When they move sloppy, you move smart. When they assume you won't rise, you rise without competition. Underestimation removed pressure, expectation, and noise from your path. You didn't have to perform. You didn't have to impress. You didn't have to shrink or stretch yourself to fit anyone's idea. You were free to grow in silence, free to plan, free to evolve. Imagine a seed in the dirt. Everyone thinks nothing's happening. Meanwhile, it's breaking itself open, becoming something unstoppable. That was you. Their ignorance was the soil. Your patience was the strategy. Your evolution was the plot twist. You weren't underestimated because you were weak. You were underestimated because they lacked vision, and that's the sweetest victory. Your rise didn't just surprise them, it exposed how little they ever understood. Chosen one, you didn't just make peace with being underestimated. You turned it into leverage, and it helped you walk straight into your power. Number 11. You shattered the loop they thought would own you forever. Walking away once is strength. Refusing to return is evolution. Chosen one, this is where you scared them the most. People always expect you to come back to the same cycles that broke you. They expect you to replay old habits, old patterns, old relationships, old wounds. They expect you to respond like the version of you they once controlled. They count on nostalgia. They count on guilt. They count on familiarity. Those are their tools, their traps, their anchors. But you ripped every anchor out of the ground the moment you refused to return. Imagine this. They leave a door cracked open, confident you'll come walking back like nothing ever happened. They think your loyalty will betray you. They think your history will chain you. They think your softness will pull you in. Instead, you walk past that door like it never existed. That silence is louder than any speech. That absence hits harder than any confrontation. That refusal becomes the moment they realize the loop is dead. You didn't break the cycle. You outgrew the version of you that needed it. Let me answer the question lingering in your mind. Why did refusing to return shake them more than leaving in the first place? Because leaving can be temporary, but not returning. That's final. That's clarity. That's power. They used to rely on predictability. You erased it. They used to rely on your accessibility. You revoked it. They used to rely on your emotional history. You closed that chapter without hesitation. Imagine them reaching for the old you like a ghost. They try to grab you, but there's nothing there. They're talking to memories, not a person. They're fighting for cycles you already buried. They're replaying stories you don't belong to anymore. And that realization hits like a blade. Your absence became the message they could never ignore. Your refusal told them everything. You're no longer available for patterns that drain you. You're no longer entertaining guilt wrapped as love. You're no longer falling for emotional shortcuts disguised as closure. You're no longer tied to the past they weaponized. You didn't walk away because you were angry. You walked away because you finally saw the truth. Cycles don't change, only people do. And you changed. You matured. You elevated. You escaped. Chosen one, the reason this hit them so brutally is simple. They lost access to the version of you that made their control possible, and once that version is gone, the cycle dies with it. Number 12. You moved on your own clock, and their control fell apart. Nothing scares a manipulator more than a person who refuses to rush. Chosen one, this is where your evolution became undeniable. Urgency is one of the oldest tricks in the book. Force someone to hurry, and they stop thinking. Make them panic, and they lose clarity. Push them to react fast, and you can control the outcome. They expected you to jump at the first opportunity, cling to the first offer, fold under pressure, or crumble under uncertainty. But you didn't. You chose alignment over urgency. You waited for moves that matched your vision instead of chasing shortcuts, and that patience shattered every expectation they had of you. Imagine this: someone is waving shiny distractions in front of you, certain you'll grab one out of desperation. Instead, you fold your arms, step back, and wait for what actually matches your identity. That stillness, that discipline, that refusal to chase crumbs, it exposed everything. It showed them you were no longer operating from fear, you were operating from purpose. Your timing became your weapon because you refused to let anyone else control it. Let me answer what's probably rising in your mind. Why did choosing alignment shake them more than saying no? Because saying no is simple, but choosing alignment means your entire life is no longer negotiable. Your values aren't up for debate. Your vision isn't up for manipulation. Your pace isn't up for pressure. When urgency lost its grip on you, they lost one of their strongest leverage points. You made decisions slowly, intentionally, cleanly, without panic, without desperation, without needing approval. That calmness was a power they never expected. They couldn't provoke you. They couldn't rush you. They couldn't scare you into bad choices. You became emotionally neutral and strategically sharp, and that combination is lethal. Imagine someone trying to pull strings that no longer exist. That's what happened. Every tactic that used to work slid right off you. Every emotional hook snapped. Every manipulation failed. Your consistency became your quiet dominance. You stayed committed when no one was watching. You moved with purpose, even without applause. That's authenticity. and authenticity can't be controlled. Your discipline exposed their dependence. They realized something brutal. You don't slow down when they ignore you. You don't rush when they pressure you. You don't collapse when they withhold validation. Your pace belongs to you. Your direction belongs to you. Your decisions belong to you. And once a chosen one becomes unexploitable, their influence evaporates. Their tactics die. Their control ends. You didn't destroy them with confrontation. You destroyed them by becoming unreachable. Alignment over urgency. That was the final lesson. The moment that proved you're 100% in control of your own path. And chosen one, if you felt this message hit exactly where it needed to, that's because you've stepped into a version of yourself they never believed you'd reach. Your last move proved you're 100% in your power, and nothing can pull you back into who you used to be. This is your new standard, your new path, your new dominance. If you haven't already, press that like button, and if you're still not part of our family, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss another message made for you. The rise continues from here.